Look, I think I'm very excited about some of the changes we made in the off season and some of the new people we have. Obviously, our coach, our GM, our CEO, they're all new, and I think that we're really putting the pieces in place to build a strong foundation for a kind of consistently winning competitive championship team, and so that's always been my goal. I've kind of always had that vision, and so now we're doing it. So I'm very excited about where we are. It's nice to see the level of intensity. I mean, I know that there's a limit to how much you all see, but the level of intensity this year in practice, the youth in practice, the new coaches, it's all it feels like a different place, and so it's exciting.
When you took over, could you have envisioned what has happened as much as you've had to do since the takeover? Like, did you think that an overhaul would be in the near future the way it's been?
Well, if you think about the history, we took over and then we outperformed everyone's expectations, and so I think we were 9, 10-1 or 10-2, and then we won a lot early, and then we obviously had that magical series where we knocked off the Bulls, and so I would say that I always had a vision for the use of advanced analytics, the use of sports science, health, nutrition, and I always had a vision for really creating excellence on and off the court. And certainly when I first bought the team, there were elements of some of the decision making that I noticed weren't how I would have done it. But at the same time, we did so well that first season that I chose to stick with the plan. We outperformed everyone's expectations. I think obviously the second season was a big disappointment, and that I think made me feel empowered that it was the right time to make a bunch of changes. And so I've always had the same vision, but I took it a little more slowly than I would have given the success in the first season.
Gotcha. Just because you are a businessman where you are, when you look back on, because basically that second season is directly tied to the Bynum thing happening. Does that anger you at all?
No, I mean, like I said, I think that the Bynum, I've said consistently, I still believe that you have to measure decisions, not outcome. And sometimes in sports, there's an element of randomness. And I think going for Andrew Bynum was the right decision because it's very tough to get a player of that caliber. We did a bunch of work, and his health problems ended up being worse than anyone thought and than we thought. And so that decision was fine. So I'm a big boy. We're big boys and we're big adults, and we made a decision. It didn't work out. So I'm not discouraged. I think some of the other player decisions we made weren't as good, and I noticed those, and so therefore, that did certainly weigh on me when we were choosing to move in a different direction.
Were you patient? Like, would you be good with watching this foundation grow?
Okay, so I'm not a patient person by nature. I want immediate results and immediate upsides, but I think that the reality, of professional sports is that things don't change overnight, and so I see it. There's 29 other owners, and everyone wants to win. Everyone's smart. Everyone's resourced. So it's all about getting an edge and and I think the edge starts with putting the right people in place in the management. And so, when we were able to get, for Sam Henke and Scott O'Neill and then Coach Brown, these are really, these are people that are A players. And so I feel like very, very excited about those moves. And then you have to work on, obviously, putting pieces in place on the court. That doesn't happen overnight. It happens over time, and then you have to work on other edges. And we continue to talk broadly about analytics, sports science, health, fitness, nutrition. I mean, these are all things extending people's careers. Getting them on the court earlier, keeping them on the court, and so these are edges that are over time going to, in my opinion, make us successful and make us win. I'm very confident we're going to get there. And I'm very impatient, but at the same time, I'm also pragmatic. I understand where we are. If you think about, the assets we have today, I understand where we are, I understand where we're going, and I'm going to push everyone to get there as quickly as possible. But I think we all have to be realistic.
But a lot of it's tied in clearly to getting the top player in the draft next year. Clearly, that seems to be part of the equation, right, Josh?
Well, I think there's many ways to acquire good NBA talent. Certainly, the draft is one very effective way, and there's also other ways. Free agency, there's trades. I mean, Andrew Bynum, we didn't draft, so I think we've shown that we will spend and be aggressive when we see the opportunities, and it's very similar to my day job, which is, opportunities don't avail themselves in many ways. Certainly, it could be a trade, it could be free agency, it could be the draft, but certainly we're going to position ourselves for all those opportunities, and take advantage of them aggressively when they come up. And that was, certainly shown last season. I mean, last season spent an awful lot of money. We didn't have a lot of results. Like I said, we're big boys, and we'll do it again if we see the right opportunity.
Are there other differences that you found between, what a successful Logic might have had in the business world, where it's different in the sports world now, having been in it for 3 years, and some of the things that are just maybe different about professional sports that might not apply to regular business?
Yeah, I think it's actually really similar in a lot of ways. I'd say that it starts with having a great franchise and a great set of values and culture and history, but then it comes down to the people that you have in place, and then building edges, your strategy, and motivating people. So I'd say there's a lot of real similarities, resourcing and making the right investment decisions around players, coaches, management team. But I would say that the differences are, just the media footprint is different. Like when you make this, in our chemical companies, no one really cares what the price of polypropylene is. Like they're not, but everyone from my son over there to my uncle to my cousin to my mother to all of you guys, everyone has an opinion on, the player decisions, and certainly. Some of the decisions that you make play out in the media a lot and very quickly, and so that's different. And then obviously, the other thing is there's certainly a that when you own an investment, there's a lot of different stakeholders. But by and large, the profit motivation is what drives you. But when you own a sports team, obviously it's a public trust, and winning is really important. Winning is my primary goal. I don't think it's necessarily inconsistent, but it certainly can be in the short run. I think in the long run it's not inconsistent. But so those would be the two major differences. The public trust nature of sports franchise. I mean, obviously what we do with the Sixers matters to the city of Philadelphia. We get that, and a lot of people are emotionally tied to the Sixers, and they stand for greatness in Philly, and then it's the media, the way it plays out in the media.
Josh, kind of building on that, when you take over the Devils, you hear the backlash from Philadelphia fans. Just your answer to them, why you did it, how it's not going to affect, and the product that they're looking for here in Philadelphia.
Yeah, sure. I mean, first of all, I'd like to say that I understand. I mean, if you are born and bred and live in Philadelphia, I can certainly understand, that you're an all Philly, fan, and so I acknowledge that. But my answer to the fans is that I love the Sixers in Philly. I'm committed to it. The fact that I have personal ties in Philly through my mom, and in Newark through my dad, and the fact that I also own a hockey team in Newark doesn't change at all my commitment to the city around the Sixers and basketball. So I'm here on a Sunday with my family. I've been at the games. I'll be at the games. I'm resourcing the team when it makes sense. The number of hours I've spent putting in place Scott and Sam and Brett was enormous. So totally focused on the Sixers, and won't change one iota. How driven I am to make this team a championship team.
Are you a bigger fan of one sport than the other? Sport itself.
Yeah, I love sports and I love competition at the highest level, and certainly both basketball and hockey, professional basketball and professional hockey, you're watching players that are literally the best in the world. So I'd say that I love both sports. Historically, I've been more of a basketball fan, but you honestly, when you invest in a team, when you own a team, the craziness and the passion that occurs is hard to really describe.
How do you divide your time? Sixers, Devils, obviously your business life. I mean, do you chart it out? Is it nearly impossible? Is it who needs me most basis?
Yeah, no. So the way that I run, so Apollo owns 41 portfolio companies, including companies like Hostess and Caesars and Norwegian Cruise Lines. And so, the Sixers, and what we do is we bring in, top tier management, and we work with those management teams to, ask the right questions, put the right incentives in place for them to, in essence, create value for those franchises, and then hold them accountable. And so I'm not involved in the day-to-day operations of those companies, and the same is true for the Devils and the Sixers, which is that, I'm not, Sam runs the player side of the business, and then, Coach Brown, obviously on the court, is the general, and then, obviously Scott runs the business side, and he reports up to, a board, which I chair. And so if you run your life that way, and you get, and what you find is that you get the way you get the best people is to empower them. So if I was kind of meddling too much, someone like Sam or someone like Scott wouldn't really want to work for me. They'd want to go somewhere else where they could have more flexibility and freedom. So I would say when you run your businesses that way, it allows you to do an awful lot. And I'd say the only difference is, obviously, I go to the games, and that's a really fun thing for me. And obviously, I also have a big family life, which you didn't even mention. It's maybe the most important. I have 5 kids, and you gotta get that. And they're here. They're involved now, because otherwise, I would be. It's a Sunday, and I would not be with them. But I'm with them and doing the Sixers, right now. And so that's the way I set it up. But it's so it does require a little bit of thought, but it's structured in the right way.
In terms of on the court, are there any players you're interested in seeing how they can do this year?
Yeah, I'm interested in a lot of that, but what I try to do is I let Sam speak to the basketball operations and the specific players. So I don't really get into that, but yeah, certainly it was exciting to come down to training camp and see all the young talent there, and see the energy of a bunch of players trying to make the team. Obviously we got a few high-profile injuries. But I'm focused on all of that, but generally let Sam talk about it.
You guys have time for a couple more, or everybody good?
Pleasure seeing you guys.